We just go.
Why change now?
We're not going to change, but we're all live now, I guess. Everybody's got pants on. We're ready to go. We had to tell Paul twice. He finally relented.
You guys in your pants.
I know. But we don't want you to, stand up and, grab a book from behind you.
I need a wellness check.
Well, hopefully you don't. Yeah, hopefully you don't. That's a whole different thing. So.
Now the internet's going to hear that. I'm going to hear a knock on my door in about 5 seconds there,
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Somebody sent a wellness check to Paul's house.
Yeah.
He's not again. Well.
There we go again. Yeah. So we initially had a guest that was going to come on, and then like I believe I said his basty ass is down somewhere in the Key West, or I don't know. I made up a location, and so probably be here next week. He's been getting interviewed everywhere anyway, so by the time we get him, everybody will have heard everything.
That's
You'll
right.
Be bored by him, but that's okay. We know him. We'll heckle him. We'll definitely interview him much differently than everybody else. At least I will. So, but why don't we start around with cool thing of the week? Why don't we go with Vance? Looks like he's thinking very, very hard. I see smoke. I see fire. I see his wife behind him.
Austin in the chat's already calling the cops on me. So thanks, Austin.
Oh yeah, I guess I got to do the overlay here.
Hey, Michael, they're specific on the old pantsless man, though.
Yeah. He's not wrong.
That's true. We got Austin, we got Mike. Hey, everybody. Yeah. That old pant. Yeah, I gotta watch out for those pantless men around there. Good grief. Speaking of old pantless men, Vance, why don't you go with your cool thing of the week?
Well, we just dropped a deposit for putting solar on our roof that will potentially be 100% offset for us. So
you'll be off the grid?
Yeah, off the grid in our Unabomber cabin in the middle of Seattle. Anyway,
he was on to something there, at least part of it.
Yeah. Anyway, and I got this in the mail today, so I get to do. I'm going to do a
unboxing for us, huh?
So I think this is Fight On 16. So we're going to open it up and find out.
Yeah, they're still making Fight On. I forgot about that.
Naughty Schoolgirls number 36. Anyway. Oh, nope. Fight On. Darn it.
Fight On.
Now, what is this? I am unfamiliar.
Oh, you don't know what Fight On is, Paul?
Okay. Educate me.
It is a fanzine. It's been going on for a while, and I've got a few PDF copies of it. I think this is the first hard copy that I have.
That's really cool graphics.
And it's got a number of different contributors. Some people on this one are Prince of Nothing. I think James Malazewski. We've got a couple other names here that.
Who puts it out?
This guy, what's his name?
Well, the
should know
person, his pen name is Ignatius Umlaut, but
yeah. Here's the first one, Paul. This is what
I think a few people have done it.
Okay.
So it started coming out in summer of 2008. So that tells
wow.
You. So this is pretty much, from what I remember, the very first like OSR magazine, before any of the zines were coming out, before pretty much this was coming out, and basically people would contribute it they would contribute stuff. All of it was free stuff, and then they would put it out on Lulu.
Yep.
And sometimes they would do theme ones, like number 2 or number 3 was based on Judges Guild, and then they had some other ones that were themed.
I'm not sure what. I'll have to look back at the table of contents to see what kind of tempted me to picked this one up. This one's dedicated to Dave Trampier, but I don't know if there's anything particularly, themed to his stuff.
Sure.
Yeah, it's kind of
Is that their latest one, Vince?
Usual.
Or is,
mix of critters, treasure, tables, some couple essays,
this is number 2.
adventures, maybe some short fiction. Yeah. So yeah, pretty cool.
Was that the last one that came out then, Vince?
Yeah, this is the most recent one.
Okay. Gotcha. And I guess what I showed you, Paul, is not the first one, it's the second. I must not have the first
There.
one.
Now you can actually hear me.
Hey, there we go.
Ooh.
Yeah.
And that's awfully big for a zine, isn't it? I mean, it's like it's book size.
Yeah.
Oh, it's regular magazine size.
Oh, is it? Oh,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this
That's
is
the right magazine size.
60 pages. No, 125.
Ooh, that's
It's
Well,
it's
when I
beefy.
When I think magazine, like I'm thinking like Kerrang or Hit Parader.
Yeah,
That's like
Teen Beat.
Teen Beat. That's like 20
There you go.
pages of just glossy photos of
Scott Baio in the full.
Scott Baio, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm just saying that's more like your cosmopolitan of magazines.
right.
Yes, so.
Yeah. Game-
Gaming.
Gamers Fall Cosmo. Yeah, how to get rid of that unsightly Cheeto dust. Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
stuff.
That's right. That's right. How to get that funky smell out of that chair from that guy that doesn't wash or bathe himself.
I need 8 ways to make the GM become the GM's pet.
Yeah.
That's right.
I can see it now. Why don't you go ahead, Paul, with your cool thing of the week?
Oh, my cool thing of the week. Well,
Yeah, your cool thing of the week.
yeah, I did a thing a while back, where I kind of unboxed this little find of OSR stuff that I had that I bought. And one of the things that did not come with that, he forgot to mail it to me, was the maps of Middle Earth from the Lord of the Rings role-playing game.
Let me embed you there, Paul.
Well, these they come in real handy because I was using them. I've been playing the One Ring, and so these maps are, and I won't show them all, but I'll just show you a sample here of this one. Yeah, there's the Shire here. We use this one, and this is
nice.
really, really nice.
That is nice.
Just the Shire, and it has the unlike the one in the One Ring, the map is fine, but the letters are so small. I mean, all of these towns here that you see are pretty bold,
right,
in printing, whereas the one in the One Ring is not. And for old people with no pants like me, we need bolder print.
That's
So,
right.
I'm just saying. But that's my cool thing because I got to use it this past week.
Very nice.
It's my third session I've done of the One Ring and second edition, and going really well. I mean, the kids are liking it, so hey, I'm down for it.
Oh, that's very cool. Do you ever get caught up with them having like expectations from the movies to that leaks into the game, so they kind of have like a no? That's
No,
cool.
I told him at the beginning. I said, this is not a reenactment. Okay, this is not the Civil War here. Okay, we're not doing reenactments. Okay, I'm not running scenes from the movie. So we're playing an adventure, and whatever happens is whatever happens. And so they understood that, and I said, look, you don't need the movies. You're making your own movie right now. I said you're gonna have even far greater adventures than the original Fellowship. So
That's
carry
cool.
on.
Oh, hey Daniel, hey David, Mark. Hey Mark, we got some new folks in the house. That's cool.
Daniel, we're gonna need to see a pass, please. You're late.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna need to see a pass.
It's gonna have to be signed by the parent.
Signed, absolutely.
Mhm.
And we know what a fake one looks like, buddy. Just want to let
It's not
you
our
know.
first time, Daniel.
That's
Not our
right.
first time.
We have signed a bunch of them.
All right, Mark, go ahead with your cool thing of the week. Or Mike, Mike, I get Mark from.
Yeah, no problem. I get Mark answered lots of things.
I have this bad habit of what I'm looking at, that becomes what the name becomes. So if I'm looking at Mark's comment, that's
Well,
the next
just
person's
be
name.
glad he didn't call you Dick then.
Yeah.
Or Richard, or
Yeah.
all kinds of things. My cool thing, speaking of old people without pants and those kind of topics, is I was over in San Antonio this weekend because my mother turned 97 on Saturday.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, give it
So,
up. Give it up for 97.
He's kind of in
Yeah.
and out and all that, but we're glad she's still here. I'm not sure she's like, how much longer do I have to do this? But
Right.
we're
We all
figuring
feel
it
that
out.
way.
And I will always thank her and cherish her because she's the one who bought me the Lord of the Rings trilogy in 1977 in 5th grade, and started reading that, and then discovered
Nice.
a game called D&D a few months later with some other guys who were skateboarding down the street. So anyway,
Very cool.
what we did in 1977.
Shut up,
The
Mark.
other cool thing, since apparently we're all still buying stuff and pretending like we're, I'm not spending, I don't need any more of that, but we're all still buying stuff.
Yeah, we still are.
I did Sly Flourish's City of Arches, and it just came in last week.
Oh, cool.
It's like an urban city setting, obviously, as the name implies. And I don't know. I haven't really had a chance to go through it real quickly, but I guess I'm one of those odd ducks in this gaming hobby because I actually like the urban stuff much better. I like cities and wilderness, and then you throw in the dungeons and the caves and those things sparingly, as opposed to spending all your time in dungeons and only barely going to town, when you want to restock on something.
I love my cities and different things. Yeah. Urban
Yeah.
adventures. Yeah, definitely. Some of my favorites.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's a very cool thing. But it's Daniel's pass is in his other pants, Paul.
It happens.
It happens.
Yeah. Yep. And my cool thing of the week is pretty simple. Nord Games was still selling their cards for $1 a pack, so I bought another 5 of them and that. So I got a stack of Nord cards. This time though, I went for the treasure trove decks. So I got 4 treasure trove decks, and they each are of different levels. Like I think I got 5th through. They didn't have the lower level. They have 1 through 4, but that was already sold out. So I got 5 through 8, 9 through 12, 13 through 16, and 17 through 20. And then I got 1 Objects of Intrigue Waterways that I still haven't opened. I had a couple other ones from the other. I bought 5 other packs from them.
I've got a few decks, but
Yeah, I think they're just selling out these decks because they're doing more. I don't know. I think they're folding them into a different type of product. It's like the same stuff, but it's in a different form. Because I can't think of any other reason why they're selling these decks for.
Do you think
$1
they're
a
just
piece.
overstocked? Like it wasn't selling?
I don't know. I imagine that's probably it. I don't have any inside information, but I see these same type of this information or decks or something in these box sets that they're selling now. So instead of buying, 4 of these, you're buying a box set and all of the decks are in one box. Kind of thing. That's what it looks like to me, but I'm not really sure. But I mean, when somebody says that they're going to sell me a deck of gaming cards for $1, I mean, it could be. I mean, I'm a sucker for that. I mean, if it's about monster poop, and there's 52 pictures of monster poop for $1, I'm gonna buy it.
You're gonna buy it, and I agree. There's not enough monster poop cards, in my opinion,
Exactly.
in the game.
I mean, think about it. You're tracking that you're going through the Comor Forest and you see this. Wham! That's troll poop. Run away. You can start it. Yeah.
That's
Mike's up
our
there
whole next
tasting it.
game. Is we're just gonna ask you questions about what does the poop look like, and then you're gonna be like, "Oh, I wish I had some poop cards to show you what this looks like."
Is there a deck of undead poop? Just a subgroup?
Well, there might be after this or something like that. Who knows?
That sounds like your next Kickstarter.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, there you go.
Deck of undead poop.
Well, Ken is still working, so I guess we want to.
Steady
All
as-
right. So, because we got bailed by our flaky guest, because he has to work all of a sudden, I don't know.
So famous,
He's
so
suspect.
busy.
He's so busy. We were just gonna do some just bullshit, basically. Talk about some gaming topics, kind of what Joe and I used. It was once in a while and I would pick a topic and kind of ramble on about it. But I believe Mike has some questions to start us off.
Yeah, I took a few minutes and wrote a few things down. A list actually started last week when we talked, and it was based on our guest, who will remain nameless, but sounds not a lot like Cunny Hubster. Would that be fair?
Yeah.
That's fair. Yeah.
Funny Plubster, something like
Yeah.
that. Yeah. Lots
Yeah.
of fun variants. So some of these questions were going to be for the guest, but I don't know. I doubt any of us have looked at a preview of Western Reaches for Shadow Dark yet, although I think our guest had. But I'm curious. I'll switch the question then to I did the Kickstarter. Did all you guys do the Kickstarter?
I did.
I only got into the zine ones. I didn't go in for the setting as much this time around. I just went for the Cursed Scrolls because as much as I would like it, and I'm tempted to dip I might still at the last minute switch to at least get the PDFs for it. I don't know how much I would use it for that.
And what does that have to do with anything on that shelf behind you?
I know. I know.
How much you would use it?
But I tell you, I do restrain myself most of the time.
Wait, so are you saying you would buy Monster Poop cards, but you
For a
won't
buck.
buy buy for a buck,
For a buck? I'll buy Monster Poop for
but
a
you
buck.
won't buy.
If it's for a buck, yeah, I'll buy it.
Is it mainly because it's a setting, Tim, and you're an original creator? You've done a lot of stuff and written your own stuff. Do you prefer your own setting over somebody else's?
Most of the time, but I mean, I still get like even with old school essentials with Dollenwood, and I know how good Gavin Norman is, and I have some of his Dollenwood stuff. I didn't get into that setting either, even though I can't tell you how many different versions of OSE I have. Every time you had a Kickstarter, I got into it. It seemed like I just got the same stuff over and over again, but with different covers. But I still got into it because I liked it. But I just didn't feel like getting into the Dollenwood. I would probably find it very interesting when I read it, but then I don't know how much I would use it because I don't buy a lot of setting books in general because I don't tend to use them unless I know the person. Like Rob Conley and I, we've been sharing. We've basically stolen from each other for over 25 years with campaigns. I like that from his. I'm dragging that in. He likes my stuff. He'll drag that in. So we'll do that. But that doesn't exclude me from buying a setting either.
Yeah, Dolmenwood is one that I've had for a while, and I've already plunked out a few ideas here and there and used them sparingly. But and that may be all it ever is. But I did think it was interesting though that I've actually purchased the PDF and ordered the book for Terra Invictus.
Oh yeah, for Greg's thing, yeah.
Greg's world setting, which is kind of I guess serendipitous that he and Kelsey both have stuff coming out at a similar time. In a strange way, I kind of like Terra Invictus from what I see so far a little bit more because I think Western Reaches is kind of the desert thing, which I'm not opposed to desert campaigns at all. They all seem to go into that Dark Sun mode, and I don't know. I'm sure there's some other original stuff out there that's different. But so I'm kind of excited about seeing that in a book form. I always buy either the combo, sometimes just get the PDF and I start reading it, and it's usually on my phone, and I'm looking at it at night before I go to bed, and I'm like, oh God, I got to print this out. I can't read the whole thing on my phone.
That's what I do with Greg's like these. I get a book, but eventually I got to jump to the book and read them. I can't.
Yeah, especially if I'm back there playing Solo Dark or something, and I want to grab some things and throw them in. I'm just not that digital. I've tried doing 5e before with my little group and doing my laptop on the side, and it was faster and easier, but I still like printouts and paper, everything right in front of me.
I think you're going to find Terra Invictus is going to probably be like, because I know you do a lot of solo play. That is definitely going to lean way into solo play because he's very procedural with the way he does things, especially with that. So I think that'll just really go with the solo play that you're doing.
Yeah, and I
too.
forgot how that question even came up. I think it was on the Kelsey thing. She was showing screenshots of the book, or somebody was. So they had a preview, obviously. Maybe even it was Greg doing one of his, but he was showing some stuff about overland travel, and or she was, and that made me think about it. And then if you compare the two, I really think the Terra Invictus version, they might be similar, but man, Gray, he takes a thing and just kills it and goes to the nth degree with just pages and pages of Arctic setting, desert setting, forest setting, grassland setting.
Right.
And you're like, okay, more here than I could ever use in my gaming lifetime. So,
Do you guys get into settings much, Paul and Vance? I mean, do you guys buy the setting books?
I don't. Look at my stuff. I don't really have much. I've got a few things like, kind of some of those group project kind of things we did, back in G+ days, and
Sure. Yeah.
some of the hex crawl kind of stuff that's mostly just people being creative. And I think the only, looking at my pile back there, the only thing that I have got that I can really think of as a uniquely setting thing is I've got like Glenn Seal's and Midlands stuff, because that's again, that's stuff that I like. I mean, I've got his I've pledged to his Rycroft, which is his current adventure. Yeah, I've got all the dark and green.
Love Glenn Seal stuff. Yeah, his is so his stuff is so fun and approachable too. I mean, it's just I think that's why. And again, it's not stuff I've necessarily used other than just kind of for kind of that feeling of atmosphere or inspiration and things. I haven't run anything, and I've seen some actual plays run in London and run in Midlands, and so it's definitely a usable setting and things. And I think the thing with like I want to keep what I say on London, which is another book that I've got, but it's nice for city crawl inspiration and as well. And I don't have a lot of stuff for that. I have and of course in my campaign I'm out in the wilderness too, so I don't have a lot of big cities or anything like that. But they, in spite of that, they've still managed to get inside some sewers. Because Gotcha.
Of course.
Very cool.
Hey, Tim, I wanted to ask you. So, for the people watching, if you don't know, I was just a follower of these guys and watched that whole campaign with the Comor Forest and all that in Shadow Dark, mostly over 2024, and enjoyed watching it on Monday nights. But now I get to ask all these questions, and they have to answer.
Have to.
Well, have to. Yeah, we're not together in the same spot. It's not like I can chase you around the room or something. But
that'd be a short chase.
Well, like I can run anywhere anyway. Trip and fall.
Both be like
trip and fall and get hurt. But so Comor, that setting then, that was all your own work, and you respun some of your previous stuff, or was it just off the cuff that you wrote Comor Forest and Scorn and a couple of the other locations?
I mean, pretty much everything that I do with the Comor Forest is I've created in one fashion or another. I mean, I've definitely have, all this back here had something to do with it also, Sure. I mean, because I started the Comor Forest stuff, I want to say about I think I started really setting down the setting in 2011, where I was making different things for it. And then my Patreon that I had for the longest time, I started making adventures on there specifically for the location and just kind of fleshing it out here and there. I would never do an overall thing. I would just do this little bit here, this little bit here, just like little needles of needlepoint things here and there, and then as people would go to get, like as Paul and Vance explored, and then I would develop the threads between them actually through their play and how they interacted with things. And because I'm really a big advocate for players having effect on the campaign, how when they're interacting with it, and maybe they bring something in, like Paul with his Doomsingers. Now that's a culture in my game. Greg was in one of my other campaigns, was an OSC campaign, and he started this god named Puce, who's the god of silence. He's now a god in my campaign because I absolutely love the concept of him. So I really like it when players bring into stuff. So there's a lot of room for not just my stuff, but for my players who bring in stuff also, so I can integrate it.
So the 12-hour episode marathons where Joe, the lawyer, was in a magic shop or shopping expedition and everybody else had to sit on their hands. That was mainly a Joe thing, I'm guessing. You didn't prepare for that. You just kind of rolled with it and let him do what he wanted.
Yeah.
That I need to do better at those, though, because I know Joe really likes to do that. And then when you have to make a city, you have to have more stuff prepared for like that. But sometimes creating stores is like, I don't mind making up stores and the personalities, but like, even if I develop a store for Joe, the fucker will leave in 2 seconds and then go to another store I have. I want to go to the cartography store. Well, I don't have that one developed today, Joe. So you're just going to have to sit here for the next 3 hours and shop. And
you need to railroad his ass at that point.
Yes, exactly.
You're shopping there.
The door is locked.
You step out of the store and you are overrun by a team of horses. What do you do?
Right.
Yeah.
Or make it the store that Jack built. So it doesn't matter which door you leave, you end up in the same room.
Yeah. Joe thinks shopping should be an RPG feature. The rest of us think it's a bug. So
he thinks this would be an attribute, your strength, dexterity, shopping. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Does he have a whole I know he's writing his RPGs. Is he going to have a whole chapter on shopping?
I imagine so. Yeah. It's going to be a significant, as well as at least 1 or 2 appendices.
If that book does not have over 300 stores in it, I shall mock him mercilessly. If he does not have 300 detailed stores, hear me, Joe, 300 detailed stores
300
with prices.
Yeah. The Mall of Mirkwood.
He needs a box store chain.
He does.
Yeah. So
I'm sorry. I was going to say the reason I even asked you that, Tim, about how you did your campaign. I was just curious if you used any of the Shadow Dark rules that are part of the core set for like hex development and hex map development that she has in there.
Not the hex stuff, but I use the dungeon one quite a bit. I like the dungeon one a bit. But now that I've got the Greg's one, I like his tables. They expanded a little bit more, and I like the way he expanded it, so it gives a little bit more flexibility. So I'll be using Greg's tables now for more like the dungeon. But I definitely use the dungeon development from the Shadow Dark rules. And then you watched it, so like several times when these guys came up on a magic item, I had them roll them right there from the Shadow Dark book. Let's see what's going on, and because I'd never really sat down and did that, so I thought it would be fun just to kind of see what we would randomly come up with. So that was fun. And then with the Unnatural Selection, now when I got that one from what is her name? Dungeon Damsel.
Dungeon Damsel, yeah.
Yeah, they have this one section called, I think, is it Curiosity? That's my favorite part of the book. I love that part because it has a few tables where you figure out the objects, figure out what the material is, figure out what weird shit it does, and I come up with the craziest curiosities is what it's called. And it's just like I make some weird shit with it. And it's only like 4 tables. No,
I have that that book from Greg. What's it called? Enhanced Equipment or something like that.
Yes.
Equipment
Yep.
something. It's back over here by me, but he has that whole section on the back on alchemy and plants.
Yes.
That would work so well with a druid, a ranger, some sort of apothecary or something. But I almost started. I didn't almost. I did because it was solo dark and I could do whatever I wanted. But I started experimenting with the idea of some spells are influenced the way he has it written. You can say, "Oh, good, go and look for some of this stuff in the woods," and it may enhance a spell or increase the effects of it or the damage or decrease. You could kind of warp your magic a little bit using those rules. I thought that was really cool stuff.
Yeah, no, Greg, he's had that since he came out with his own RPG several years ago. He did a second version, I don't want to say 2 years ago, but he's always had the spell catalysts in his equipment list and everything. And it's something Rob and I have been doing forever too. We always had these little, if you find something that can enhance a spell or make it do something different. But Greg has what do you call it? Codified it, in his equipment list. So it's a nice addition. Greg gives good equipment lists.
He makes a mean table. I'll say that.
He does make a mean table. Yeah.
All that reminds me. It goes back to mentioning Lord of the Rings earlier, but I think everybody kind of thinks of Aragorn and the what is it, Atlas or the King's foil stuff he uses to put on Frodo's wound with the dagger from the Nazgul, that kind of thing. And it has that kind of feeling to it, which is cool stuff.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about there. Yeah. I don't know where it's at. But yeah.
Hey, Paul, in your games, do you dip into some other books? I know I keep like Knave 2E right there for tables and stuff I can open. And I love Into the Weird and Wild, not Into the Cess and City and Cess or whatever that second pink book is, not as much, but Into the Weird and Wild and Precious. Is it Precious Wild or something? There you go. Yeah, those are such cool books for overland stuff, especially forest and wood. And
I used what's his name? Questing Beasts. I use his mazes.
Maze Rats.
Right.
Maze Rats. That's right.
Yeah,
and that's I use that quite often at the table if I just need something random.
I started doing that with 5e, as a GM for 5e, and finally I just went, why am I playing? I just need to go do my own. And this before I was really into Shadow Dark, and I was just getting back into the hobby, and I was already finding stuff to throw into it myself and make, which I guess I always did back to when I played a lot in the 80s and so forth. I'd grab influences or inspiration from anywhere I could get it, and I think most of us probably do that. Did any of you guys come up playing the TSR modules or in the old days, did you prefer those? Or
I never had any of them really because I didn't have the money for it. So I had a few free ones, the ones I picked up off friends and stuff. I remember running people through A4, which is the last of the slavers, which is because of that is one of my favorite modules. Shane and I, we had a local group when we went through the entire D series a few years ago. And that was a lot of fun until we, got all the way down to Menzoberranzan or whatever, and got our houses handed to us by Lolth, and and none of us were ever seen again.
It always amazes me, the YouTubers though that spend so much time redoing these videos on like Keeping the Borderlands or whatever it is, or Strahd or whatever. They just go around like, Strahd, if you didn't grow up watching Dracula movies or read Bram Stoker, you kind of know how this is going to go down. And that's probably short shrifting Strahd. I get it. Don't send in letters or anything. But I don't know. I just always felt I could come up with something better. It's probably an ego thing. I could write better than that. I can come up with a better idea. So
yeah.
I think I wasn't the DM when I was younger, so I had a friend, and he did homebrew stuff all the time. So I think I ran one module, like it was a 1-to-1 thing I was running for a friend that I spent at his house or something. And I wish I could remember what it was. It had Needlemen in it. So if that means anything,
Oh, Needleman.
I can't remember who that is, which one that
know.
was.
Yeah,
But it
I
was
know
fun.
which one you're talking about, but I can't think of it off the top of my head.
But yeah, it was just for my basic knowledge of how to run a game at that point, it was just we're just gonna keep fighting things until everything was dead. So that was the plan.
Taking it
Was
back to Shadow Dark, though, that idea of going and finding a book you like or a comic or a movie or anything, whatever your source of, your favorite inspiration, and then flipping it into a game system, that is kind of another notch in the belt for Shadow Dark, or Knave or Cairn or one of these easier, faster systems that, take what you want and plug it in and go play. And hell, I know a lot of my players, they don't play enough. They wouldn't know really if I changed the system on them, or it would take them a little while to figure it out. Austin saying something about Vermis. Yeah, I love Vermis is awesome. There's no rules, but great images and ideas. That Plastaboo guy, I follow him on Instagram.
I don't know who that is. Yeah.
Yeah, he did
Was-
two
was-
books, kind of art books.
Oh, okay. Huh. Was that module the Sentinel, Paul? Does that sound familiar? UK2.
It could have been. Like I said, I'm and also I think was it were they in the Expedition of the Barrier Peaks?
I don't
I
know.
don't think so.
I was gonna say
Those
I
were the
don't-
Vegapygmies.
Oh, the
Yes.
Veggie Pygmies. Okay, all right. Well,
That's
then, yeah,
what I
it
remember.
could very well have been the Sentinel.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Vegapygmies, they're problematic today.
Are they? Are
They
they?
are. They
Because of their-
are for some people, I suppose. I'm sure rough toilet paper is problematic for them also too.
Well,
It's a little bit too
It's
racy.
not a problem if you know who you're playing with and you know the sensibilities of your friends and all that. I guess it's problems
Yeah.
for people like Paul. You were, I know, doing the DM thing for a while, like through Start Playing or something like where you getting people to sign up and you don't
Yep.
know these people from Adam. Yeah, you could get any. Doesn't make them bad or
Right.
wrong or anything. They're just
Right.
different and something that shocks
I-
one person. I'm
David
sure Dan,
Thompson's-
you're in Seattle, right? You could probably tell us all kinds of shocking.
No, and the funny thing is, I run one shots fairly regularly up here through Meetup, and I run it, using OSC or using Shadow Dark or using maybe some other rules light thing, and I haven't had any, negative interactions with anybody, let's just say.
Right.
And
Yeah.
and and I just sit down and when I start, anything, I write my stuff to be pretty bog standard. I mean, you're going to go into someone, if you're not comfortable going into the dark and killing things, what are you
Why
doing
are you
sitting in
sitting
the
here? Yeah.
game
Exactly.
table?
Right.
But I mean, I think you talk about sensibilities, you just there's some big ticket items that you just keep out of the story.
Sure.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
And-
Unless you're a type
and
of
If you get, and that takes care of like 80 or 90% of, or more of, what's going to, tweak somebody out. Now, I was reading an article today about, again, about some of the revisions and discussions regarding like orcs and drow and things like that. Again, if you know your party or your players and stuff like that, you can build that into your system or how you want to create interactions with those species or however like that. But that said, most of my bad guys in my stuff are humans. Those are the real those are the real monsters. No, but it's
Yes, they are.
that's the that's the easiest stuff. And then these others are either can interact or tangential to it or whatever. So that's me pushing my soapbox around.
Yeah, and I've never had anybody join a game that tried to change the way I played. And I've never had to change anything within a game to appease anyone else. And I think that is just good. If everybody understands why we're here, then it's, going forward is much easier. It's DMs too, DMs who purposely try to antagonize,
Right.
Why would you do that? And being one who's, even though people are paying me good money to run games for them, they still die. I mean, in the game. They're not paying me to live. That would cost them double.
Exactly.
They didn't pay me
You
enough
gotta
for
pay
that
me
part.
double whatever
Yeah.
you're paying for you to live in
An
this game.
upsell.
In fact, the first game I ever ran online was a complete total party kill, because I told them, and I won't go through the whole story, but they were warned. They knew it. We processed that. We said, do you remember when I said this? And do you remember did you hear the inflection in my voice when I said, are you sure you want to do that? I said, okay, as long as we are. But they had a great time. And I think if both players and the DM comes to the table with a reasonable amount of expectations,
Right.
but I think the DM runs the game, how they want to run the game. And,
Yeah.
everybody has to, if you're in the game, you just have to say, hey, that's the guy behind the little screen there. That guy, he runs things over there.
We ran into that back in the early 80s because we were all junior high and getting into high school, and we wind up playing with other people. And I say guys because I can't remember any girls, Yeah, that's a whole different topic. But anyway.
I was just mentioning today, though, my wife, talking about girls playing, my wife only played one game with me, and it wasn't even D&D. We were at a friend's house, and we were playing the original Twilight 2000.
Oh, wow.
And my wife, all the wives that were there sat in for one game, and that's all it took to get rid of them. They just said, that's enough.
Well, that's because you're running Twilight 2000, but yeah.
50 Shades of Grey, the role-playing game.
There were zombies in there. They were quite deadly. So
Cool.
that's all I remember.
Yeah, I just know playing with the kids when we were young, it's like they'd come in and out, the players, and they'd kind of check it out, and some of them would be kind of into it, maybe half a session, or, hey, we're going to go play football again. They disappear and leave the hardcore or whatever, 3 or 4 of us there at the table.
Yeah, the only issues I've ever had was at conventions, and they were just amazingly stupid problems. It's like the one time I sat down and this guy was running a 3.5 game, had pre-generated characters, and I changed something. I was like, I'm going to switch this around a little bit and whatnot. And the guy beside me is like, well, I'm secure in my masculinity, so I don't have to change anything.
Wow.
And being I'm not one to let those kind of things slide. I don't give a shit. I'm like, who the fuck are you to talk to me like that, you asshole? I said, just mind your own goddamn business and we'll be fine. But he kept.
Did you ever have your brother back? Did you ever have your brother back at the game after that, or was that the last?
My
time?
brother, no, I don't have. I don't know who this soy boy was, but and then it was the same convention. I can't even remember the system, but we had this one particular guy. It was another player, and he bitched the whole time about the way the guy was running the game, just complaining. And about, I don't know, it was about half hour in the game. I just said, if you don't like the game, leave. I said, you're making it miserable for everybody else. Just get your ass up and go. I was like, no skin off of our back, go.
Yeah.
Well, he fumed, and he was this big biker guy. He finally left, and then everybody was mad at me because I confronted him on it. And I'm just like, you've got to be. This is the same convention, so I'm thinking I came to the wrong convention because apparently, I am not jiving with this crowd. And then I tried to run my own game there, but it wasn't on the. It was just running for some people there, some of my friends that were there. So we decided to just do a side game, and I had this. What was it about? I was running one of my micro adventures about a werewolf and a mom, and I mean, it was kind of a. It was almost more role playing kind of adventure than it was combat. A little bit of combat mixed in there, but, and I kid you not when I tell you this story, there was a girl behind me dressed as a unicorn. I'm not joking. dressed as a unicorn, got mad away the way I depicted the way the mom was acting, and she wasn't paying attention because that wasn't even the mom, and it was just weird. So she actually got the guy who was in charge of the convention to come over and address the situation.
Wow.
You should have gone full Joe Namath on her. And say, I think you're pretty. I
Yeah.
want to kiss your mouth.
Oh god! And then I knew the guys, and I mean he was nice enough, but I was like, I said, I guess I'm gonna leave the convention. I said, because I'm running into borough blocks anywhere. If I exist, I seem to be pissing people off here. You know, and I said, I don't feel like I'm doing anything wrong, so I'm not gonna fucking change. So
I hope
yeah.
that wasn't North Texas because
what's that?
I
No,
said, I
no,
hope
no,
that
this-
wasn't North Texas because I'm going there. I think in June. Paul, aren't you going?
No,
Yeah.
yeah, I think you had a lot of
Well, listen, you'd have a different problem at North Texas.
Yeah.
Right.
Like liver
Oh,
damage.
All those guys, well, there's
That
you know,
too.
there's a lot of guys. There's a lot of guys there who just they just think
Isn't
they're the-
isn't
they
Bad
think they're
Mike
the
part of
best.
that show?
Huh?
Oh,
Bad-
he is
Bad
the
Mike from
show.
Garrett?
Yeah.
He's
Yeah,
like one of
he's-
the original dudes or the dude.
Yeah, he runs the convention, and
Yeah.
and him and I can't remember who the new other guy is
Yeah.
now.
And,
But,
and I think you find it. You're right. You're going to find stuff at every convention. I think it doesn't matter whether it's like OSR specific or if it's just a. I think maybe some of the ones you get in, no, I won't say get in trouble at, but the ones that when they're not game centric, when they're not, tabletop RPG conventions, and they're Comic-Cons or they're people just wanting to drop by, they want to find out what all this is and all that stuff. Sometimes that can be, for the person who shows up to run the game, who thinks if they're not there to either teach how to play or those kind of things, then that could be a struggle for some people.
Sure.
For guys that are running. But if you're running it, most just tabletop RPG places, conventions are, everybody's pretty on board. They know what they're getting into for the most part, I think.
I've had generally positive experiences at the local con that I go to, both as a player and as a game runner. So, and I've tried to take part in a couple where, it was like gaming is associated with like a writing conference or something like that, but, wasn't able to get kind of anything set up on those. But again, I think, focusing on, the focus of the convention is kind of going to be your indicator of, even your success of running a game.
Yeah.
Well, that was the thing. I had been at that same convention. This was my third year there, and I had really good experiences the first 2 years, but this third year was a big pile of shit. It was. I mean, from beginning to end. And then the bad thing was, we had a group of my friends. We came and meet. And one guy, that was where we had always meet in person. We always played online, but it was our one neutral ground where we come to play in person. And he's about as docile. I mean, he's a French professor, so he's very, very intellectual, but very docile, not into too much conflict and everything. And even he was getting ticked off at the and he was. It was so funny because he was in the game, and it was the first time I ever heard him get mad about something. Because I was ready to punch that unicorn in the face. I was like, dang, yeah, he must have.
Wow. And he would have done it in French.
Yes, yeah, he would have done it in French. He would, and probably, said a lot of words I wouldn't have understood.
Yeah,
maybe so.
Yeah. Oh, look at now he appears. There he is. There's Greg.
Yes. Speaking of French, let's talk about The Last Candle since he's not here. That's a joke. That's a joke for him. We were on some comment thread talking about one of his things and not really listening to the guys who were doing the show like this. I was asking him about The Last Candle, which is one of his supplements. Well, we could pull it apart and just see what Greg thinks. That'd be fun.
I did the play testing for the last Scandal when he
Did you really? I mean, I haven't played it, but
Yeah.
I have it. And the thing, I'll just say one thing on it. It's, I guess, an older Shadow Dark setting. But the thing I really liked about it is the way he addressed languages. He uses like different versions of Common, which I've run into before in my own game, with folks. I'm like, really, Common feels a little bit like a hand wave,
I don't like French pronunciations. Yeah.
Il ne parle pas français.
We're
Good
just
night,
always
Austin.
reminds-
Austin's about to head out, so
Oh, good night,
Good night,
Austin.
Austin.
Have a good one, bud.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Austin.
because every time I have to do the French stuff, I always think of that skit from Steve Martin. Blah, blah, blah. What happened? He spoke French. He died. And you're like, oh, he spoke French.
Well, I think you guys are getting to know me a little bit. I'm mainly a history guy. That's what degrees and all that were in school. Meanwhile, while I was role playing on the other side, and with a brief foray of about 10 years into miniature Napoleonics and painting up distinct French corps and allies and fun stuff like that. So the French part came along with school a little bit. But the thing I liked about the last Candle, though, is he divides Common into, I think one's Imperial, and then the other one is Kavar or something like that. Kavar, I think. And Greg, you can tell us in the comments if I get it wrong. And then he had other languages and all that too in it. But it made me think about other games that I GM for. And I always feel like Common is just kind of like, oh, you speak all these languages, but everything becomes common and we never talk about languages again. And something else I was reading recently was talking about, even if your character does have Goblin, maybe as one of your languages, let's say in Shadow Dark, maybe you're not speaking it every day, and you get to the goblins and you overhear them in the dungeon. Would you maybe pick up a few words? What degree of understanding or comprehension would you really have of Orcish or Goblin or Diabolic or something? Or would you just pick up little bits and pieces of it? And I just wondered if you guys ever handled languages in your games like that.
Yeah, I only have 2 years of Goblin in high school, and so I haven't been using it very much. I have my Goblin travel dictionary, so I can find the bathroom in Goblin Land. Yeah,
And order beer and find the bathroom.
Which is the joke, is the bathroom's anywhere you're standing when you're
Especially in Goblin. Yeah.
I've been thinking about this for the setting that I'm working on in my little creation world that I'm working on, and that's people groups, right? I mean, because even if you pick up on things just like we pick up on things, right? Everybody knows some basic Spanish, everybody knows some basic French, right? You know how to say we, right? That's pretty common, right? So I think in general, in game, I think it's fair that if you've gone on enough goblin hunts or if you've faced enough goblins, I'm going to say you're going to pick up on some things if you're listening, if you're if you're investigating or if you whatever. And then I think it was in one of my issues of Crit Happens where I talk about school that that your downtime could be spent on education, right? You say, look, how many times does somebody get to learn a new language? Would you like to learn? Well, use your downtime for that. Say, look, I'd like to study, Goblin, or I'd like to do that. Well, take a class, right? There's people who take classes that you could take classes, or you get together and are mentored from somebody who's fought in the Goblin Wars. And to me, that always makes the backstory you're creating that much better, because now you have a mentor that you can go to and say, hey, I have this, Goblin document I can't read. Can you help me? And then you're studying it. You don't have to get a degree in Goblin, but, just like you pick up on phrases. I mean, it's like, look, it's like doing Duolingo, right? You're going to do Duolingo or something. You can say, well, I'm going to learn over time, just like you would in real life. You could do that. Your character could do that in game if you choose to use your downtime correctly, or if you work with your DM and those things. But people groups, just like normal people, and I think somebody that does that is Midgard. The Midgard has some different people groups in there from Cobalt Press, I think, where you could be from a certain area. You're still human, but there are different, things. I think we see that, in our own country here. There's South is different from the North, and the West is different from
Right.
the East.
Different dialects.
There's different. The Midwest is, the fact that you can say pop and soda and mean the same thing, right? So I think it's, I think it's an underutilized part of growing your character is languages.
And it's a great opportunity for the GM to work in some fun ideas, where you get part of a rumor, you hear a few words, but you didn't get the whole thing. And
or you misunderstand it.
Mhm.
The whole one shot was based on a different thing.
they're speaking high goblin or low goblin, that sort of thing.
Hey, those goblins, they get around, buddy. They're not all, they got their little ways of doing things.
Yeah. I mean, that's something you could, I mean, just like anything else in a game, you can build as much complexity and detail into it too. And you could be, kind of obsessive of, this community speaks this language. And it's kind of one of those things of, when you do look at it, it's like how, humans universally speak common. The goblins universally speak one goblin language, or one, there's one orc language or whatever.
I don't have enough storage capacity in my brain to enter like the different language things. I mean, it's a cool element, but trying to add that's another thing you'd have to keep track of with all the other elements you've got in the game. And I just don't.
Yeah.
It's like anything else. You can go too far with it.
Oh yeah.
Right.
You could. Yeah, I'm actually going to start on my 256 page supplement on dialects.
Hey, there are people, these Star Trek people who can speak.
or Star Wars, like Wikipedia stuff. There's
right,
like
they can speak Wookiee, or Star Trek. They can speak Klingon. There's whole dictionaries of. We're not talking about that. We're talking about character things for character advancements and making your character a little cooler or a little bit more in your advancement. Like, what do you get at level 2? Well, maybe you say, I studied a language for a year or whatever you did. And you're really proficient in it.
I would be settled. I would be happy just to get up a different language for the Thieves' Camp. If I could do that, that's what I would love to do. Develop that out. And that one is just phrases and lingo kind of stuff. But
anyone started writing one before?
Yeah, there's actually.
And I'm sure I'm not alone, right? Some other people started writing a.
Yeah, all my words were backwards.
It all became Cockney. It almost all became Cockney immediately,
Yeah. All my words were backwards or pig Latin.
That's a good approach. I like
that. All my guys just throw gang signs at each other.
There you go. That's Thieves' Cant, isn't it? Isn't it that like
Anthony?
Yeah.
Hey, Anthony. Common is always used and abused. Languages in gaming are a joke. Yeah. I mean, I get it. I mean, I think they're just kind of a generic difference maker of a tool kind of thing. Joe, I think, used it more in his game. What would you say, Vance? I think I've had anybody use in a while. He used them, if you didn't know Goblin, you couldn't speak to him, or Orc, or
well,
he kind of held down.
Yeah, I do a little bit of that in my game of if you know Goblin and you run some hobgoblins, it's kind of like in French and Spanish or French and Italian or something like that. You got there's enough overlap, you can probably communicate. Or occasionally I'll run into somebody one of those languages that's nobody's got on their list, and so you're basically rolling. Okay, well, has this group interacted with somebody else where you have a common language between the two of you? So you can at least somebody can at least do a kind of a pigeon, communication with this other group. So that's probably about as deep as I would go on something like that.
Yeah, but something fun too for the DM too that I've used is like you find where you print out something. And maybe it's you can use runes or Viking runes or some Elvish type of language things, and then you had a key, right? You had to find a key, and your players would have to figure out what it says. So it's like part puzzle, part of the thing there that can be that I think can be a fun element if you use it as a prop and as you use it as a puzzle and use it for other things within your game.
Yeah, I've done that one before with the Northman kind of runic system.
Mhm.
Joe was big into trying to, even though he says he hates puzzles, he ate that up. He loved trying to figure it out because I didn't give him any hint to it. He just kind of, it's a very basic form where, this symbol means, this letter. It wasn't anything too complex, but he figured it out, and he actually figured it out fairly quick. I mean, I think it only took him about a session to kind of crack the code, so to speak. So, But yeah, languages is one of those things I would like to get a little bit. I just think I probably still. My trick is if that's what say Joe's a dwarf and he runs into a dwarven runes. Well, you can't really read this because it's ancient dwarven.
Yeah.
It's a little older.
There you go. There was a whole nother version of this language before.
Right. Well, I mean, if you think about it, if you try to read somebody's hand or book from the 17th century, even though it's English, it's like, what the hell is this? I know the words, but I can barely read it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
I've seen a good little summary video, some historian of basically how far back can you go and still be able to recognize,
still understand what they're saying.
English.
Yeah.
And how far back did
the
they go?
permutations that English has made over the last 1,000 years.
What was the answer to that question, Vance?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, it's been a while, and I was listening to it while I was walking the dogs. I mean, basically, you could get back to Shakespeare, maybe Chaucer, and still have enough kind of common
centuries.
But getting back farther. I mean, I've had my when I was in college, my English lit teacher read a excerpt of Beowulf in the original Old English, or not original, but in Old English, and it's this guttural German language,
Right.
and you don't recognize. You might pick up one word,
You know what's a great language, and here's who does it best. If you remember the old movie Caveman.
Oh yeah,
with
the
Dennis
one with
Quaid,
Ringo Starr.
with Ringo Starr and Dennis Quaid. Right,
Yeah.
and they would just draw.
Don't forget Barbara Bach. Barbara Bach.
Oh, let's not talk. Wait, let's calm down.
Yeah.
Hey, we talk about Barbara Bach after 10. That's how this show goes. But they would do something funny, right? It was a fun, like a toque,
Right.
and then he so smash a toque, right? And that to me is like a funny type of language you could use that they did. That language, they made a whole movie of nonsense, of just nonsense language, and it was hilarious.
But there's a couple of great improv games that are along that line of, it's either you have somebody talking gibberish and then somebody else interpreting it, or you have these two people having a conversation and then they'll ring a bell or something, and then they both have to switch into gibberish, and then they ring the bell again, they have to switch back into English, and basically continuation of a conversation. And so that there's like rules, there's like little gaming things like that you could probably.
Mad Gab is like that. Mad Gab is where they string a sentence together that's not supposed to be like. I mean, they just jam all the words together, and you have to read it that way, and everybody else has to interpret what you're saying, because you're jamming all the words together, and they have to make you have to figure out what the actual phrase or sentence is, I think.
Well, Lewis Carroll with his Jabberwocky. That's always a fun exercise, because you make these words, but somehow they're complete nonsense words, but you still understand what you're talking about at the same time. It's a pretty interesting exercise to do it like you did because that's what first thing I thought of when you were talking about the caveman. It's like even though they were talking complete, what the hell is that? But then you started understanding everything.
Which
But
is
they're
scary,
talking-
right? It's like, why am I understanding what, what is wrong with me? That well, listen, I was 13 when I saw it, so clearly my brain was clearly underdeveloped. So
Well,
it's more
yeah, I mean, our
comfortable.
brains are so wired to create language, and so even if it's gibberish, we still, and you could pull context and stuff. Yeah, you by the end you're
Mhm.
like, oh yeah, I understand that.
Clearly. And Daniel makes a good point here. Quest for Fire had no language at all. So
No.
there's
Right.
we're looking, right? If you go to another country, you're looking for patterns or signs or how they move their hands. You're trying to pick up, like,
Right.
I've been in foreign countries where I'm trying to just pick up on intent, right? What are their eyes saying to me? What are their
The
hands
nonverbal
saying?
yeah.
It's nonverbal, some sort of nonverbal communication. And you pick up one word and you're trying to think, oh, they're talking about, you kind of extrapolate the sentence and go, oh, that's what they're talking about. Yeah.
And Greg was talking about the English being particularly unstable, and I don't know where I learned this, and I could be pulling this out of my ass, but from what I remember, the English language grows by 1,000 words like a year or every so. There's like a period. Can't remember what the time period. I might be mistaken about the year, but it grows by 1,000 words every so often and whatnot. So you're always in English anyways. It's like it's an unstable language because it's just jacked up in every which way
Yeah.
it possibly could be.
Right.
Yeah.
And all you have to do is just be around teenagers for about 5 seconds.
And you can't
And
understand.
You have no idea what they're talking about.
Right. Exactly.
That's a whole nother language in and of itself.
Yeah.
Well, and then slangs and stuff pick up, and there's the meme about how language is basically, or English is basically either three languages in a trench coat, or English, basically takes other languages, beats them up in a dark alley and steals their pronoun.
Gen Z could be a language in a fantasy world. You could say, well, do you speak Gen Z? All these goblins speak Gen Z. So
There you
know
go.
what Riz? Do you know what Riz is? If you don't understand Riz, then the goblin says
You're
you have
out.
Riz.
Oh God.
Skibbity
Yeah.
toilet is a foreign phrase, is it not? I mean, we're gonna say things like that. That's something a goblin would definitely say, though. Skibbity toilet. Oh, you got to go to the bathroom. Oh, okay.
Skippity Loo, probably Skippity Loo.
Skip to the loo, my darling.
Yeah, the British goblin. Yeah.
It's a British goblin who has to use the restroom, have to go to the loo.
Maybe a little effeminate. Yeah.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Skippity Loo.
Oh my goodness.
All right.
But
Let's see here.
what's the chat? Anybody else in the chat there?
We got
Anthony Hargis. Many linguists believe that we couldn't go back much further than George Washington and still be understood. And Shakespeare is a stretch.
Yeah.
Well, you have
it's
to
hard
separate
understand
what Shakespeare was really speaking versus the verse of his plays,
Yeah.
which is a different thing. By the way,
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And if you give a King James Bible to a teenager, see how well they do, right?
Right.
Or an adult for that matter, and let them start to work
Right.
through that.
Sit.
Vance, sit.
Vance, are you
Vance,
sitting
sit.
already? Good grief. Sit already, Vance.
Gosh,
What?
man.
Oh no,
You're told.
we're trying to get the dog to behave. I'm behaving just fine right now.
He already housebroke you, huh?
Yeah.
If she reaches over and hits you with a rolled up newspaper, we know something is wrong.
Yeah,
Blink
I
twice,
know.
Vance, if you need help.
All right. See you later,
Now,
Greg.
We're now kicking out the
Greg's got
dog.
to run. Thanks, Greg.
He's actually got to work this week. So,
Oh my goodness.
Gosh. He's gotta
got to do some real work.
Don't mind
you know?
calls.
All right. Let's see here. Any other questions in your thing there, Mike? You had some good ones there.
Well, I started making a list. I was kind of curious. I didn't know. I was going to ask about what other games you guys are playing or like to play, that kind of thing. And then I noted, Tim, you'd mentioned OSC earlier, which I actually never played, but having played, AD&D or whatever, first edition, for
It's
the better
different,
part of my
though.
career, I don't think it'd be that difficult to transition.
No, it's not easy to transition, but it's like Shadow Dark. It's just different enough. If you don't know the rules, it gets confusing. It's tricky, different. It's like this looks the same, but it's not, or it is. It's what's going on. Oh, we got nomadic wanderings. There we go.
Nomadic.
No,
And then we got you.
And then Paul, I didn't know you were playing the One Ring.
That is
That's
correct.
cool.
I bought the big Moria supplement thing just because I don't know where I'm going to use it or what, but I'm like, I got to get that. I can find something to do with that. Would be cool.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it's
But,
it's a lot of fun. It's a different. I was down at my game store today talking with the guy there, and talking about the fact too that it's not. I mean, if you're playing the not 5e version, if you're playing the normal 2e version, it's not like you struggle. Like I say this, I struggle because you're not handing out magic items in the Shire. You're not handing out.
Yeah, you're not saving Middle Earth.
Yeah, you're not you're not finding, monsters around every turn. Right? And so for me, it's been a real challenge in regards to the fact that what I'm creating is very much people problems, right?
Yeah.
That have to be solved. Like this, I needed a little extra boost encounter. And so they're looking for Gandalf's fireworks in this thing. And so I made it to where they kind of they went to a house to look for them, and there was another group of guys there looking for them. So creating these kind of conflicts that are, people based versus everything you're going to face is a monster, or everything you face is going to be, whatever. So it's challenged me in that sense to create, more difficult things. And then also just like in normal games, picking up cues from your players and allowing them to come up with some outrageous stuff. Like they started a bar fight and for Hobbit, that's something. They're in a play. They were in a bar I called it the Hairy Foot, and they were there rousting guys. They were trying to find, Mike?
Said you scared me for just half.
Oh yeah. But yeah,
the
hairy foot, yeah, and they they're like, I mean, they were aggressive. These are aggressive hobbits. I was like, I've never seen hobbits act this way, but yes, they really are aggressive hobbits. And one of the guys took out his sword and chopped the bartender had put a big stick, a big shillelagh up on the thing there, and one of the guys chopped it in half. Like, hey, we're in charge here. I'm like, oh my goodness. Okay, now we're taking care of business here in the old Shire. This is it.
Right.
The Shire has gone dark. This is old school Shire. Is what this is.
So let me make sure I understand this.
That's
You
funny.
did a whole adventure in it based on finding Gandalf's fireworks where his fireworks stash was or something? Or
yes. Well, the adventure, that's what the adventure was. To me, it was a bit light in the sense of travel, right? And like there wasn't enough encounters that they put in there for me.
Yeah.
Somebody else could do it, that'd be fine. But for me, I tossed in a competing group, and they were looking for the rest of Gandalf's fireworks because Bilbo said these people are using them improperly. That he had seen them go off at some other town somewhere, and then he's like, oh no, you guys have to go get those because they're using those. They should not be using Gandalf's fireworks because Bilbo wanted them for himself, obviously. So they had to go off and traipse off and go find them. And they wound up, running into, guys who were like being shady with them, who were like black market firework dealers, and they were doing all kinds of crazy stuff. I'm like, wow, the Shire just got wild, man. Because for me as running it, I'm like, you're cautionary. Like, am I like, are the token police going to come and they're going to find me and go, listen, we don't do that in the Shire. Okay, that stuff doesn't happen. Okay, like, so I'm like really careful about the lore or whatever I'm trying to do, and I'm trying to keep it whatever. But they had fun doing it. But it was a exciting session we had.
Yeah, that's a cool idea. Yeah, I've kind of toyed with the idea in more of the books and maybe finding a group or trying it out, roll 20 or something, and just seeing if I liked it. But I was always curious if players always try to drift back to the main canon of Tolkien's actual stories. Like, just leave that alone. Make it 50 years in advance or 100 years behind, or in the
Yeah.
in the
Well, they
table.
have the different ages you can be in, right? So they
Yeah.
give you the option to be, whatever, and usually it's staged in a certain area. But the only guys who are going to be like that, if you're playing with teenagers or even young adults, if they've not read the books, all they have is the trouble you're going to have is playing with 60-year-old guys who have read the series every year.
I'm sorry. What
They were
what am I
14.
doing tonight? I'm sorry. Wait.
Well, but we're not gaming. We're not the actually people, Mike. We're not going, well, actually, Mike.
I don't want to play with 21-year-olds who haven't read anything or don't.
No, you do, because the problem's going to come in with guys who have read the series who are going to correct you.
Yeah.
They're going to say that
Yeah,
wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
That wouldn't happen there. And I
Like
want
the
the guys who
comic
know
book
nothing.
store owner, the comic book store owner guy on The Simpsons.
Yeah,
Pretty much.
yeah.
the ponytail, that guy. Yeah.
I don't want to play with those guys. I want to play with guys who know nothing. They're going to build their own world. They're not trying to recreate the movie in some fashion,
That's what happened with the Dragonlance and modules when they first came out.
Yeah.
I mean, well, you were basically doing just that. You were reliving the books and you're playing the characters. And then what would happen is you get, like in our particular group, you had half of them who read the books and half of them who didn't. That does not work. That does not
Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
Because, and then you got your guys who are playing. It's like, no, that's not what Tasselhoff would do. I don't give a crap what Tasselhoff would do.
That's
See ya.
right.
Good night there,
Thanks, David.
David. Yeah. So that's why I always shied away from what do you want to call it? Like RPGs based on
Well, any famous
Um,
IP is going to be like that. Like I always wondered about the Neverland thing, which I'm told is really great. Not that I'd want to play in the Peter Pan setting, but supposedly it's really cool. But
it's very good. It's and just the
I think
way
there's a
he
new
the
one
guy,
too.
yeah, he's done Wonderland, Oz, and
Yeah,
then
Oz, Neverland, and I think there's a third one now.
Wonderland is the
Uh-oh.
Yep.
He's frozen.
Tim's got to
Yeah,
pay his
It
bills.
was,
Well,
bird landed on the wire out there in Pennsylvania.
Squirrel bit down on the power line.
that's right. That's right. Yeah, and I imagine there are. I mean, I don't know if there's a Harry Potter role-playing game. I think, and maybe Star Trek might be a similar. Anything with
Oh,
an
yeah.
IP, right?
Oh, yeah.
Anything with an IP.
Mhm.
Maybe. I mean, but Marvel superheroes, like example, has anybody ever played Marvel, the TSR Marvel game? I think, because it's comic book centered, not necessarily movie centered, right? It's based on, comic book characters that have these powers and have these things. I mean, so, maybe that's a difference where people aren't trying to play it exactly. Maybe, I don't know. But I think anything with an IP, some people want to get really deep into
Oh, sure.
whatever,
Ask Amazon about that. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Rings
Yeah.
of power.
Yeah, no, I haven't seen any of that. I've
Never seen a
have
Harry
no
Potter.
interest.
I've never seen a Harry Potter movie or read one of the books. It kind of came along later. My kids were probably
Yeah.
in junior high or early high school, and I was just like, nah. It took me forever to get used to SpongeBob, and once I did, I love it. And
Yeah,
but for years, I'm like, oh, come on, this looks terrible. And then started watching a little and watching a little.
yeah.
Is there a SpongeBob game? There probably is a set in Bikini Bottom somewhere.
I don't know, but I bet there probably could be somewhere.
Yeah. If there's an IP, somebody's probably built an RPG out of it. Yeah.
Oh no, well, yeah. Well, you had Indiana Jones. You had, there's ones that probably should have never been made, right? There's,
As long as they got 6 skills and advantage, disadvantage, and whatever, I'm sure we could figure it all out.
Yeah, we'd figure it out. But I think that's, for anybody who goes to a game who's trying to, I think it's okay. I think it's okay to like in movies, in Marvel movies, I was talking with my son about this before I jumped on, was the fact that, what Marvel fan wants. I don't think correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Marvel fans don't want the retelling of a comic book. I think Marvel fan ones, and I am one, what I want is a few frames, right? I want Thor smashing Captain America's shield, because we've never seen that in a movie part of a thing, right? So I think the same way to some degree. I mean, yeah, do you want, like in a Star Trek game, do you want to throw in some tribbles? Sure. You open up a closet and there's some tribbles in there. And a whole thing of tribbles fall out, which then that's like the last frame. That's like the cliffhanger. Like you open a door and a bunch of tribbles fall out, and then we'll see you next week, right? Yeah. And then we've got to find out where the tribbles came from. So I don't know. I think it's just a matter of just being, conscious that, listen, not every game's going to play the way you think it ought to play according to the IP.
Well, speaking of unexpected games, I thought about this over the past week, and I was like, I wouldn't mind playing that public access TV station game one more time. I don't know that I'm pretty sure I don't want to campaign in it all the time.
Right.
But I might drink something alcoholic next time I'm watching it. But
hey,
I think that combination, I mean, for your table, I'm not saying broadcast it, maybe, I don't know. But that was more fun than I even realized when we wrapped it up. I thought about it later during the week, and I went, "Wow, that was," because I'm just so into everything Shadow Dark and D&D and all this stuff, and I love it. It's all great. And then out of the blue, something else comes along, and it's just like a breath of fresh air for a little bit.
Yeah, as Tim called it, was a palate cleanser. It was
between courses.
So so different that it just takes you to a whole nother place. And it was, but that, to me, games like that, I mean, if you want to call the 80s an IP or the late 70s, there are things that we want in those games. We want the little gang running around with denim jackets or riding their bikes. And
absolutely.
Yeah, there's certain things we want in there that make it what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. We want mullets.
But that's part of a good setting, that, any setting you're gonna have, at least some staples that are familiar to you, like whether it's Star Trek or whether it's Harry Potter or whether it's D&D.
Well, Daniel's on there, and he's saying he's playing with a group right now, ages 20 to 12, and it's different. Can you imagine playing that game we played last week with people who weren't alive during the references from that? I mean, that would have to.
Right. I can't
imagine what that would be like.
Right. I think they'd get it conceptually. They would not have enjoyed it as nearly as much as those who lived it, such as us. But I think they would have, for those probably would have just jumped in and played it for what it was. But I think there's just an inside joke, right? For the ones that are in there, they're going, or
maybe we get their view of how they interpret the 1980s or whatever. It'd be
that would be interesting.
If I played the Lucy Show RPG, right? Well, I wasn't alive then either, like a decade or so. But I'm pretty sure I know what Fred and Ricky are up to and how they're going to teach Lucy and Ethel a lesson.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
The encounter is you and Lucy are in a candy shop, and you have to do a dex check to see how much candy you can get off the conveyor belt and put in the thing, in the thing, and then if you fail, the machine speeds up, and now you have to start stuffing it into your bra.
The other great one is where she's getting drunk, doing the ad, and they have to keep shooting.
Oh, the vitamin.
She's drinking like the alcohol,
the vitamin,
whatever it was, or
That's what I'm going to do. The next game, I'm going to have you guys read ads for your show. Like you're going to have to read an ad. You have to come up with an ad for your show that you're doing.
That would be great.
Paul, I don't know if I told you this, but
I've got that.
I've owned an advertising agency for 22 years.
There you
go. I don't want to do anything with an ad.
You don't want to do an ad? You want to run an ad?
No, I don't.
Somebody's got to sponsor the show though for your guy or your show.
Well, it's all about the media, and we have 3 watching right now. So I'm imagining our ad rates would be pretty low for somebody to advertise. You can
we have 10 total watching right now.
Oh,
That's right.
10. Oh, yeah. I'm watching
Yeah.
on another. Maybe I'm behind on the other.
Yeah, we got 3 from. I'll do the Joe the lawyer. Oh my gosh, look at that! We got 3 from Fluke.
Oh
3
my
from
gosh.
Guthrie.
We got 24 from Rumble.
Yeah,
Rumble.
Gingerbread and- yeah.
Yeah, Joe and his announcement, and then like I'll heckle him
Luke
from
Guy
the
or whatever.
comments and say, Joe, how many are watching? You haven't told me in
How
the
many?
last 5 minutes.
Hey,
Yeah.
that's right. But if we have to do an ad, I would say, look, Crit Happens is a wonderful zine.
Darren, here, wait a minute, Joe. Or what? Or not
Please,
calling
by
you
all
Joe.
means.
There you go. There you go, Paul. There you go.
This session is brought to you by Crit Happens, the zine, the hex crawl of horror, now available everywhere. Drive Through RPG and my own little site, Gumroad. Only $2. Go out and get it today.
Nicely done. Nicely done.
Wow.
There you go.
You know, I
I-
had that on my list of questions. If y'all want to talk about it, I don't know how late you want to go, but I'm intrigued by this idea of the hex flower. If you know where you take just the immediate hex and then the 6 around it, and that's your whole thing for that night. Good for a one shot, or I mean, you can still travel it in a one shot or whatever. But anyway, I don't know much about it. But Paul, and I don't mean to put you on the spot if you don't want to talk about it at all. That's fine too.
I
Oh,
don't want to
go.
talk about it.
Not like you.
I have feelings. I don't want to talk.
I need to prep. You need to talk to my people. Have your people call my people.
That's right. That's right. I don't appreciate the question. We didn't say this was going to be on the show. No. So yeah. And once again, hex flower is not my idea anyway. Somebody else came up with that.
Right.
And I think I mentioned that in the zine from whence I got it. But the fact is that, you know, you can have, it's kind of like if all you had was a hex flower, like if you dropped a hex flower with the 6 and the 1, so you got like, you know, 7, you know, hexes there, you know, like if you drop that and said, this is all you know, right? This is the only world you know of. Like you grew up in this town, you've never left the city, and all you knew around there was like, you know, 6 other areas that were around you. You could play that, you know, you could say, look, around that, those hexes are just nothing but the largest mountains you've ever seen. And nobody's ever climbed over them, right? It's like kind of like a prison in a way, right? You're kind of in this, you know, this little setting that you can't get out of if you don't want to leave it that way, right? Or if nobody's ever been beyond the, you know, a certain point, you know, where they could, you know, go from there. But yeah, so the hex flower you can use for multiple sessions, especially if you have, like, if you know you're the MacGuffin. There are 6 MacGuffins you have to find. You have the rod of 7 pieces. You know that you're going to have to go to each section. You can use that hex flower for to be able to do that, because now you know where you have to go to some degree, that there's some legend or whatever that you're going to follow the stuff, you know.
Yeah. Or if your players were thrown into the Fae or whatever, or some other world. Do you guys know the Electrum Archive zine? It's is that the
No.
one written by the Hungarian guy? I can't remember his name. Gabor Lux or something.
Gabor
Gabor
Lux,
Lux. Yeah.
I think I may be mixing up people, but there's this older zine called the Electrum Archive, and I think the #1 issue that he has this world of Orn, which is a different planet altogether. It's kind of a desert world. The magic is all done through inks or something. It's like the gods of the spacefaring race. Anyway, it's bizarro, but it's a cool place to throw your people into. And I actually used that in my D&D campaign, and they found this mage who'd been caged up and was a prisoner and was actually, he was a bird at first inside of a cage like Tweety Bird, and they got him out of it. And then he was a naked mage, you know, sitting there in the dungeon, and they started talking to the guy, and he gave him a couple of boons, but he happened to be from Orn. And I was going to try to work the Orn world into it and have them go there, but we hadn't gotten that far because we don't play often enough. Boo-hoo, you know.
It's a science fiction or science fantasy role-playing game by Emil Bovin and Ava Islam.
What is Electrum Archive or Orn or
Yeah.
what?
Electrum Archive. Yep.
Okay, yeah, I threw Gabor Lux out. That's a different cat. Sorry.
Yeah. No. Yeah, I know Gabor. Yeah, and yeah, he's he's got about, I don't know, 30, 50 zines out there. Various. I've got couple different ones of Gavers. Yeah, he's a very good stuff. I've never read. I've always seen stuff about them, but I guess I've never gotten anything from them because I don't have any of this stuff. Cult of the Lizard King. I don't know what that means. I guess it might be
I'll tell you
there.
about how to roll up a cult real quick. I think I saw
that's right.
one of those. Crit
That's
Happens.
right, that's right.
Yeah, Crit Happens is on fire. I'll do another ad mention for any of you who don't know Paul and Flint Fireforge. Check
Here we go.
out his
Here we go.
zine,
Make 'em
Crit
big.
Happens. Yeah.
There we go.
Oh, well, I'm not
Check
gonna
it
do
out.
that. What am I going to stand up and do a handstand or dance or something? Yeah, but
I
check
don't know.
seriously. In all seriousness,
Do you play a
Paul-
drum solo while you're doing it?
I've got to plug it in. I have a speaker over there somewhere.
Yeah, you're already equipped. Yeah.
playing my headphones. Gonna do a drum roll for you real quickly.
Whoops.
Wow, we're only in the second hour. We've already we're
You
straining.
know what the crazy thing is? This is when we get our most people.
Yeah,
It always is. Yeah, it's very.
That's
I always
right.
feel like they're surprised we're still talking. We're on that long.
Yeah.
I know. I was a couple of times with you guys last year. I'm like, they're still going. Holy
Yeah.
cow.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
we
there
found
you go.
out there's Tim showing all the Crit Happen zines, and that's
Yeah.
what happens when you start out with just a hex flower. It turns into
It
into
does.
into a setting.
What it ends up turning into, it's like it turns into a neat little idea, and then it turns into work.
To some degree, yeah, to some degree, but it's at least it's an enjoyable. I think it's an enjoyable work. It's a lot of thinking about things that you normally don't think about how to make it, how to come up with new things or come up with new ideas or whatever. So
Well, you came into it with a purpose, though. You had a strategy. You had a purpose in mind. You were coming in with authority with the hex flower.
that's true. I did have a plan going forward, and I
Yes.
have no idea where it will end, but we'll just keep going until I don't. I mean, look, if you have time, and I think I'd
Go
say
watch
that to
the
anybody.
video. Yeah.
If you have time and you're working on things anyway, I mean, you're you're doing it. Just go ahead and throw it out there into the world and into the universe. It'll take you a little bit of time, a little bit whatever. But did I think I was going to put out 6, zines on this particular? I mean, a total of 8 or 10, a total of 10, but
Right.
6 of those being just nothing but a hex crawl of horror type of concept idea. Who knows? I think you just got to go with your inspirations.
I still have to print out your latest one. I still haven't done that one.
Yeah, and I'm working on the latest one, which is all going to be about, because I'm taking the steps from, doing the 33 steps from Rob Connolly's book.
And then you'll reach
how
recovery.
to make a how to make a fantasy sandbox.
Accepting a higher power, and I think that's the first one.
Yeah. By the way, Tim, I saw
Yes.
a few things in that book that sound vaguely familiar.
Well, there might be. I don't know.
I don't know. I saw the name, but although Rob may have gotten it from you, I don't know. I did see the name Delaquain in there, though.
Yeah. Well, what he had to do is his campaign world was really integrated with the Judges Guild stuff. And what he did, because we did this long ago, when he wanted to separate from it and start making his old stuff, he likes some of the names so there's no difference. And like,
Right.
you're going to see a lot of the same names in his stuff because we share mythology names. That doesn't mean they're the same thing, but Rob has carte blanche. If he wants to borrow anything of mine,
Yeah.
he don't care. And if I borrow something from him, he doesn't care, because we're pretty much integrated. After you game somebody since the mid 80s,
Yeah.
we're not going to be able to untangle that fishing line.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there's even though we saw on the thread today, there are some who still would still like their coin for hexes.
I had a conversation with Rob before we got on about that a little bit. So,
Clearly they would like that untangled.
Oh, geez, Well, I mean, you can't help. You can't stop stupid. It's very difficult.
It's
you know,
very
it's
difficult. I know. I
very
can't stop
difficult.
myself most of the time. But
Yeah.
yeah, like I said, when you start with something like that, just a simple hex flower and just work the process, like
Yeah.
like I said, I'm going through steps 15, 16, 17, and 18, I think, and then my next video. And you start naming places, and then it starts, becoming more of a thing.
Did
So
you skipped a few steps though, if I remember, Paul.
Yeah, he has not
Yeah.
talked about air circulation,
Nope.
monsoons, drainage
Nope.
basins.
I believe I said that the only air currents in my game is passing wind.
Yeah.
It's the only
Is that step
airflow.
2?
That is, well, it is step 2.
Does
The number 2
56.
for sure,
Exactly.
potentially. Uh,
Yeah. You are not paying homage
are-
to the source material. Truly.
Yeah.
Yep, you are not bro OSR. You're not bro Conley.
buddy, I'm not bro anything, I don't think, but yeah, so yeah, it's just a matter of functionality over authenticity. So that's what I'm looking for. That's my goal.
Yeah, that's
Paul, you got to
I
bring
mean,
some of that stuff with you to North Texas.
Mhm.
I was watching somebody else's video about going to cons because I've really never done big cons. I might have been to some small stuff or certainly comic stuff, but not a big gaming con before.
Did I lose connection?
And they said, bring some of your stuff to hand out because you're going to be meeting people from here. And oh yeah, great to meet you in person. So some Crit Happen stuff. Somebody gave Kelsey the idea, maybe it was Greg, and I hadn't seen this before, but it's like she ought to be making Arcane Library luck tokens, like the ones you get at Mardi Gras and stuff like that. Hand those suckers or sell them $1 a piece.
Or poker chips.
Yep, some nice
get a
spending
bunch
money
of-
for Kelsey.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'll be bringing a couple of zines just to toss out to anybody who might want them at least, and see what happens with them. I'm just sending them out. It doesn't matter to me. I mean, people want to get a hold of them.
Have you already got your badge and signed up for some games? I'm curious.
I got I got my badge, and I got 2 games I'm signed up for. And other than that, I'm playing Tales of Argosa. I'm playing that. And
Who's running that game? Do you know?
I don't.
Oh,
I don't know
okay.
who's running that game? But I think one of the who's running is one of the co-authors. I think is
Right. That's what I was wondering if that's who.
I want to say Benny, but that's not. I don't know if that's correct or not. But Tales of Argosa is one, and then the other one is a fairly newish one, and I wish I could remember what it is. But I've seen several videos on it, so I was excited to see it being run at the con. So hopefully,
I couldn't get a badge. I logged in about 2 weeks ago to go get all signed up, and they temporarily had no badges. I'm like, what?
Well, the caps at 500.
Yep.
That's the thing about this con is that it caps. It maintains. It's a hard cap to say, hey, you this is just they want to keep it small, and so that's why they capped it. At least that's how I understand it. Am I understanding that right, Tim?
Yeah, I mean, I've never went to it, but every time I talk to or interact with Bad Mike, I think that's sort of like the capacity of the place that they have at. But I mean, I think they keep an eye on it because I think they do have cancellations or different things. With
Absolutely.
badges.
They could put you on a list, by the way.
Yeah, well, it's a 4-hour drive from Houston. So before I go up there, I want to make sure I can get into the thing to begin with, even if I'm not signed on for games, because I think it's kind of fluid in some of these situations where we're going to add a few more players or some didn't show up or that kind of thing. Or they add pickup games from what I'm told. So
absolutely. Are you just coming up for the day?
I don't know. Wife and I are talking, may go up for 2 days or something like that.
Okay. Well, they have day passes. I think you can, the day passes, I think are.
Yeah, I may just go do that, but that would get me into everything I want to get into, right? Same as a badge, more or less, right?
For the most part, yeah.
It's just an at the door badge. Yeah. I'll go check out the website again. The website looks like it was built in 1773. Good Lord, dude.
Yeah.
Get a real website.
I think that's used for a lot of cons, though. I think that's kind of a one-all catch-all.
No, not that thing that other app you went to. That was okay. I meant just their actual.
Good night, Michael.
I mean, it was rugged.
Thanks
trying
for
to figure
joining
out
us.
what's going on.
I'm getting spammed from Twitch.
Probably Joe.
Yeah, true. He'd be advertising on bathroom products or something like that.
Yeah, Joe's signing us up to sketchy Eastern European dating sites now.
Well, yeah, no doubt. Yeah.
That's
Let's see
right.
here.
We've attracted the bots. I don't know. Is that a market?
Yeah,
Hey,
and
we
then-
made success. Yeah.
Yeah, but I have my Twitch channel with the towering 0 members or 1 member. I'm not really sure how many I
Yeah,
have.
that other game I'm playing, I think it's called Horde Wars. I think it's what it's called.
Horde Wars. Okay.
Horde Wars.
So
I
like
don't know that
mud
one.
wrestling or something.
Well, maybe. If that is it, I am not playing in it. I want to make that very clear to the internet.
Well, you could be a manager or
Yeah.
something.
I
Promoter.
am not going to participate. Yeah, it's called Horde Wars. It's a D12 system by Blackwall Games. You've probably seen him, the guy. He's been on several things. Nathan Lindy and Todd Ritsima, and then there's I think his name's DM Blackwall is the guy who runs the company, I guess. But I think he goes by DM Blackwall. But it's a D12 game, so I'm excited for that. I was like,
I think I just saw a video about something about him. I think it was on that Ginger Harmony or something like that. So she does. some
yeah,
interviews.
he did it. She did an interview
Yeah.
with him.
Yeah, she's
Okay.
on that group with Scudder for Mike.
Scott
Gotcha.
Mike,
Yeah,
friend of the
she-
show, by the way. We throw that out.
Yeah,
there.
I've kind of run into
Friend
him
of
a
the show.
few
He's been in here
times,
before.
yeah, and he threw me a free membership or something the other night when I was. They had Kelsey on the show, whatever night that was, Saturday.
Oh,
or
nice.
Sunday or something.
Yeah.
Seems like a real nice guy. Most of these people are really nice folks. I've been lucky, knock on wood, in my
Yeah.
2 years of getting into this again and digging through YouTube. I've somehow missed out on all the real jerks, and I'm not complaining. But one of the first people I found was like Professor DM, and then Dan Norton, and then Ben Milton, and on and on and on. And fortunately, I didn't start with like Joe the lawyer first, and I probably would have. I don't need.
Oh wow!
I probably would have said, I don't need.
Wow.
I don't need to play D&D again. No, I'm kidding. I'm firing shots on purpose because
Cannons fire,
I miss
yeah,
poking
shots
fun
fired.
at Columbo
Wow.
while y'all are playing.
Joe
For the
deserves every
algorithm. For
shot.
the algorithm.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Demonetize Joe. That's what his nickname should be. Joe the Demonetizer.
Oh my goodness! Wow, that's funny. That's funny.
What else?
What do you think? You guys got anything else, or you think we're good to go?
I think we're good to go. I think we've spent all our
So-
cachet.
We could
So
sing
next
Smoke
week, I guess we'll see if Greggy Poo can make it to. We'll grill him for a little bit. He's
Yeah.
got a lot of products out there on Drive Through RPG under Chubby Funster.
Yep.
If you're like, he's been killing it on the Shadow Dark end. I mean, I
That'd
think
be
he's
great.
got like 6 or 8 products on the top 15 list on Shadow Dark alone.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, he's done crazy good there, which is fantastic. And I've got pretty much. The funny thing is like we were just talking about today. I think I have everything of his except his setting books. I don't have any of the setting stuff, but I am kind of looking into.
Did you ever see that game he did, Ambition and Avarice? He did before.
Yeah, I've got both. I've got the first edition and the second
2014,
edition.
2012 or something like that.
Yep.
And it
Yeah,
is-
well, he has one from that's the first edition, and then he had a second edition. I think that just came out a couple years ago.
Okay.
Too. He updated it. I think it's at that time it's not for Shadow Dark. It was more kind of Ambitions and Avarice is its own RPG, but it's definitely heavily a D20 system kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then he was kind of adding a lot of the Axe system domain play into it. So there's definitely that influence in that time. And then when he got onto Shadow Dark, he's just been running a sprint with everything with Shadow Dark. I mean, he's pushing out pushing out products like crazy. So
Good for him. That's what I
no,
say.
no, absolutely. It's good to see.
Because
Like when Rob puts out this stuff. Yeah.
that's right. And he's doing it at scale. I mean, he's it's the right time, the right moments, the right type of thing that you're involved in. I think that's
And
but
it's
he's
not
working.
crazy ridiculous. I mean, I got his softback book and the PDF for $11.
Yeah.
So,
that
I
price
mean,
is crazy. That last
Yeah.
candle is like $5 for the PDF on drive-through.
Right. So he's not trying to make an exorbitant
No, he's
amount
not
of money
gouging
off of it.
people.
No, not at all.
Well, I think
So-
he's one of those do-it-yourselfers, right? Tim, do you know? I
Oh,
think
yeah.
he does the layout and buys a bunch of asset, image assets.
He's one of those guys that he kind of does similar stuff for a living. So he's already got the programs, he's got the knowledge, and that. The only thing I would be mad about Greg is if he knew how to draw. Then I'd be pissed off at Greg. Yeah, I'd be like, no, you don't get to draw too and make all this
Too
stuff.
much
No.
talent. Too much
Yeah.
talent.
Yeah, because then I would just tell him you'd suck all the time.
That's right. We
So-
buy nothing of yours. we buy buying absolutely nothing.
I'm boycotting him. Yes,
I'm
absolutely nothing.
boycotting your giftedness. We're
Yes,
done
I'm,
with you.
I'm canceling your talent, Greg.
That's right.
So,
Oh my goodness.
but yeah, tune in next week, guys. Greg should be coming along, and if you have any questions, please bring them with you. Go get his products. Chubby Funster game, or I think it's just Chubby Funster. There's no games at the end of it.
Yeah,
Yep.
if you look up Shadow Dark on Drive Through RPG, I'm sure you're going to run into his stuff.
You're gonna find it, yeah. And I don't think there's anything. He doesn't put out anything bad. I mean, everything he has is useful. So, if you want to try out something, he's got a lot of different things. But if you're into Shadow Dark, he's got a GM companion that just got released in print, and then he also has a player's companion, and both of them are very, very good products. So,
That's right.
go grab them. So, all right, guys, have a good night, and we'll talk to you guys next week, hopefully.
All right. Be well, all.